Hi Rafe, just thought to make you a little video. Got something in the post this morning, and here it is. This is the camera that our father took all those lovely pictures from. It's called a Werra, and it was produced in East Germany by the Carl Zeiss Jana Lens company. It's very interesting getting it and seeing it, and I can't honestly say I remember a huge amount about this camera per se, except when I opened it at the back. This seemed very familiar. This opening here, that really did seem very familiar. Also, these controls at the back. Here's the actual camera itself. You can see it was secured at the back, so I'm just going to unscrew that, take it out so we can get a better look at it. Even. I'll put the case to one side. The only thing that it doesn't have, Dad's actual camera had a little kind of sort of container on the strap on which you could hold spare rolls of film, and you will see that it's very, very basic. It looks very basic. It's actually more complicated than it looks, but there are no controls here, and if you look at the back of the camera, simplicity itself, there's a viewfinder. It's worth remembering, I'll come to this in a moment, but when Dad was taking pictures, this was just a viewfinder just going straight through to that window there. So it's not a viewfinder that was actually giving you an indication of what was being seen through the lens. So to a certain extent, in certain situations, he would have had to just compensate slightly, probably in close-up shots, because obviously you're looking there, the lens is looking there. So if you're in very close-up environments, you're going to be slightly out of frame. And just occasionally in some of Dad's pictures, you can see that he hasn't quite managed to correct that. But it's a very difficult science all the same. What is remarkable to me, I'm going to take this off now. You'll see this is a cover. That's the actual lens cover. So that comes off like so. Eventually, yeah, it comes off like so, and then you could just shoot with the camera there, except that you need access to the controls. So turning this compartment comes off, becomes a lens hood that goes back on the top of the camera. Eventually. Nice sturdy build. Not very heavy, but it comes across as solid. As solid in build, so it does. Now if you get something like a Leica M3 camera or something like that, at the top, at the back, you would have the various controls for adjustment. In this case, with the Werra, all the adjustments, they take place on the barrel of the lens. So you have control over aperture, focus, and duration as well. Can't really give you a great demonstration of that at this moment in time, purely and simply because I'm such a stranger to this myself. I've never really used a wet camera. But let's see what that one is. Yeah, so here, this control, you'll see this is your speeds, your different speeds. Okay, and then here you have your aperture, and right at the front you have the focusing. Now, once again, going back to how clever and relatively accomplished Dad was in focusing terms, that was guesswork virtually. You can see there, so I'm going out of camera there, but you can see the different distances. So 2 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 8 feet, 11, 16. So literally when he was taking a shot, he would have been, having to guess how far away the subject it was. And, sort of, I can tell you now, taking pictures today, trying to get an accurate focus, even with autofocus, is tricky sometimes. So it's a wonder that he got pictures as sharp as he did. The camera was from just at turning the film over. Simplicity itself. Just a great... Most cameras, again, would have a lever to turn the film on. In this camera, it just all happened here. So you took your picture, and then you just turned, wind, so really, really very simple. I'm going to see if I can open the back of the camera. I might not do it now in this video, but the camera, it doesn't actually open in a lid sense. In the case of this camera, once you get the back open, it would in fact pull apart, and that's when you would put the lens in. It's may seem a strange thing to do, clearly it's not Dad's camera, it's not the camera, but it comes very, 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 very close. And I believe this camera looks to be in very, very good condition, and I believe it is functioning. So I'm going to get a roll of film, take that out, give it a bit of a spin, and see how I get on with it. And of course, just looking at the front here, the real strength of this camera in terms of Dad's picture taking was, you could just see inside there, barely see it, there we go, Carl Zeiss Jana. Carl Zeiss, sort of famous lens manufacturer, still today known as a lens maker of distinction and still highly rated. And this is the Werra 1, and that was the actual model that Dad bought. There are later Werras which become a little bit simpler in look. The logo disappears to the back of the camera, for example, and also they moved to a kind of a green, an olive green casing. But I just loved the aspect of putting your hand back in time and just, sort of being able to fill out the picture, because we always have known how good the family pictures are, and so it's nice to actually sort of get the actual bit of kit with which they were taken. A lovely weight, has a nice, ever so slightly heavy feel, but it will be interesting to see how I get on. I'm not expecting sort of miracles, because clearly by today's standards, with what you could get from a camera, sort of, well, aside from anything else, you're talking about a time difference of over 60 years. But it will be nice just to see what I can get. I'm glad it's come. It came very quickly, and I'm going over for this wedding in not the week after next, and I think I might even take myself along to the in Dublin. Take myself along to the canal, and just see what kind of pictures I get there. Sally might be with me, so I might be able to put her in the frame, and it'll just be interesting to see how the results turn out. I know what I will find very frustrating, of course, is that firing off pictures and no way to know if the picture you're taking is correctly exposed, and so on and so forth. In fact, speaking of exposure, excuse me, with a cough, that's the other thing. Again, exposure, sort of based on intuitive, intelligent guesswork on what the lighting conditions were. And if you look back at the sort of the negatives, which are how the film has gone, image has gone into the camera, exposure in 9 times out of 10 is pretty well right. Dad's pictures are usually very nicely exposed, not overexposed, and so on. So he clearly had very good sensibility and judgment as a photographer. That's almost it. I'll just finish with an apology for the background for this video, which has been my ironing board. But there you go. There's the Werra. That's Daddy's camera.